Walking back from the hospital had been a mistake. I knew that now. The cold bit into my hands through the thin fabric of my gloves, my fingers stiff and clumsy as I moved. My steps slowed without me meaning them to. Somewhere along the way, my stomach clenched again, sharp, hollow, insistent. I tried to ignore it, but the thought pushed through anyway. I should eat. I have to eat. Anything. As soon as I get back. I couldn't remember the last real meal. The memory slid past me, blurred, like so many other things lately. I pressed my lips together and kept walking. Silva came back to me then. How small she had looked in that bed. How sick. And how alive she had been when she saw me. I felt a strange relief at the thought that I had gone, that I had seen her, maybe for the last time. I didn't let myself finish that sentence. I wasn't ready to think about her dying. Not yet. Robert followed, uninvited. The funeral I hadn't planned. The phone call I hadn't made. Veronica. The thought of her slowed me more than the cold. Robert's mother. I hadn't called her. I knew I should. I imagined her somewhere alone, devastated in a way I wasn't. And that thought unsettled me more than anything else. Why am I not more devastated? I pushed it away immediately. I knew the answer, and I wasn't ready to face it. Still, beneath everything, I knew this much. No matter who Robert had been behind closed doors, Veronica would be the one truly mourning him. That mattered. It should matter to me, too. Hilda drifted in next, her pale face, that strange look when our eyes met after the first interview. She hadn't looked well then. Sick, maybe. Or frightened. I shook my head slightly, as if I could dislodge the thought. None of it was useful now. Laughter pulled my attention to the side. A group of children were throwing snowballs near the corner, shrieking as one of the mothers scolded them loudly. The sound felt jarringly normal. Life, continuing without hesitation. I reached the hotel doors just as the warmth hit me. The sudden change made my head spin. I slowed instinctively, steadying myself as I stepped inside. For a brief second, the lobby blurred. Light, heat, movement, all folding in on themselves. Then I saw them. Police. My first thought was irrationally calm. They're here. Then, almost immediately, where's David? I scanned the lobby before I could stop myself. The desk, the seating area, the entrance behind me. Nothing. No familiar posture, no familiar face. Only Inspector Novak, and 2 uniformed officers behind him. A flicker of hope tried to surface. Maybe they're not here for me. But it barely had time to form before Novak spotted me. He moved toward me at once, fast enough to feel purposeful, almost urgent. The hope collapsed. Mrs. Van Rysa? Hearing my name like that, Eva Van Rysa, cut through the lingering dizziness. Clear, sharp, official. He asked where I had been. I opened my mouth automatically and stopped. I couldn't say it. I couldn't say Silva. I couldn't say David's mother. If I did, Novak would know. About David, about us, about the past. And then David would be pulled from the case. A conflict of interest, just like that. I thought of how much this case meant to him. The years he had worked for this. The promotions he needed. The money. His mother. If David had wanted this known, he would have said it himself. I had no right to take that from him. I stayed silent. Novak's expression tightened. He reminded me that we had agreed I needed to remain available for the investigation. I am, I said finally. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I'm available. Now. He didn't look pleased. After a brief pause, he told me they needed to speak with me again, at the station. I asked why. You'll hear everything there. The words settled heavily. I nodded, then hesitated, fear spiking unexpectedly. "May I go to my room first?" I asked. "Just to freshen up?" For a moment I was sure he would say no, that this was it, that every small freedom had already disappeared and I hadn't noticed. Then he nodded. I turned toward the elevators, my stomach twisting again, harder this time. Why haven't I told David yet? The walk down the corridor felt longer than it should have. All I could think was the same sentence over and over again. Why haven't I told David yet? The carpet blurred beneath my feet as I moved. My keycard shook slightly in my hand, not enough to drop it, just enough to notice. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and let it close behind me without really hearing it. I should have told him. I wanted to tell him. I need to tell him. The night before, when he had stood in this room, I had been right there. The words had been ready, but they never came. And now I understood why. Because for the first time in years, I had felt normal. With him, I had breathed without thinking about it. I had laughed without calculating the consequences. For a few hours, I hadn't been a widow or a suspect or a woman replaying bruises in her head. I had forgotten, completely, that Robert was dead. The realization hit hard. That had been the mistake. I moved deeper into the room, shrugging off my coat mechanically. The air felt too warm, thick against my skin. My stomach twisted again, sharper this time, and I pressed my palm briefly against it as if that might help. I have to tell him everything. Not just the facts, not just what I remembered. Everything. Even the part I hated myself for. That I had wanted Robert dead. The thought made my throat tighten. I hadn't done it. I knew that. But wanting it, wishing it, feeling relief at the idea of him never touching me again, that was something else entirely. David needs to hear it from me. I crossed the room and grabbed my phone. What if they already know? What if they've pieced something together wrong? The thought spiraled quickly. Maybe that was why David wasn't downstairs. Maybe he was angry. Maybe he thought I had lied to him. Maybe he thought I had staged the burglary. Maybe he thought... Stop. I dialed his number before I could talk myself out of it. Ring, ring, ring. No answer. My grip tightened around the phone. My chest felt too tight now, like the air wasn't moving properly. I stared at the screen, willing it to light up. Please, just pick up. He didn't. Panic crept in quietly, settling somewhere between my ribs. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, but my mind refused to listen. He's angry. He thinks you lied. That's why he's not here. I typed the message with clumsy fingers. Please, we need to talk. Urgent. I stared at it for a second before sending it, then watched it disappear. Delivered. Now I waited. Seconds stretched. I checked the door without meaning to, a ridiculous flicker of hope surfacing, as if he might appear again, like before, as if this could somehow repeat itself. I exhaled sharply at the thought. Get a grip. My gaze dropped to the door handle, and that was when I noticed it. The sign still facing the wrong way. Do not disturb. The room hadn't been cleaned. I hadn't even thought about it. I crossed the room and flipped it, the motion automatic, detached. Only after did it register what I'd done. It doesn't matter. None of this matters right now. I slipped my phone into my coat pocket, smoothing the fabric over it as if that could summon a response. My fingers caught on my scarf, and I adjusted it quickly, anxiety flaring at the thought of it slipping. My throat ached when I swallowed, dry and sore, and my stomach clenched again, hard enough to make me pause. I'm weak. I haven't eaten. I don't have time for this. I drew in a slow breath, then another, forcing my shoulders back. You'll see him at the station. The thought steadied me, barely. I'll tell him there. Everything. Even the parts I'm ashamed of. If no one else understands, he will. He has to. He's known me since we were children. He knows who I am beneath all of this. He needs to hear the truth from me. I adjusted my scarf one last time, pressed my lips together, and turned back toward the door. I have to tell David everything. I don't remember how we got there. The station appears around me without transition, like a room I've stepped into mid-dream. Fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant, shoes squeaking faintly against the floor. My body moves because it's told to move, but my mind lags somewhere behind. I look around immediately, not at Novak, not at the officers, at the space beside them, at the corridor, at the desks, at the doorway. David isn't here. I search without meaning to, my eyes sweeping the room again and again, as if I might have simply missed him the first time, as if he could appear if I look hard enough. But every face is wrong, every shoulder unfamiliar. Where is he? The question pulses, loud and insistent. I don't know who to ask. I don't know how to ask without sounding exposed, without revealing something I'm not ready to name. So I say nothing. They lead me into the same room as before, the same table, the same chairs, the same faint scratch on the wall near the corner. The familiarity should comfort me. Instead, it tightens something in my chest. Sit, breathe. He'll come. I tell myself that if I just wait, David will walk in. I'll tell him everything. He'll understand. This will still make sense somehow. But the door opens again, and it isn't him. It's Novak. He starts speaking, but at first I don't really hear him. His words slide past, muffled by the single thought pounding in my head. Why isn't David here? Then one word cuts through. Veronica. I look up sharply. My mouth opens before I can stop it. Veronica? Novak nods, his expression unreadable. He tells me they spoke to Robert's mother, that she told them a great deal about Robert, about our marriage. I say nothing. I don't need to ask what she told them. Veronica had always known. She had seen the bruises I tried to hide. She had heard the pauses in my voice, the careful way I chose words. She had lived her own version of this life once. She had tried to help me in the only ways she could. Novak continues, about the violence, about what they now know. Shame washes over me first, hot and suffocating. Everyone knows. Every detail I protected, every excuse I rehearsed, laid bare under fluorescent lights. Then fear. And beneath it all, still, that same question. Where is David? The answer arrives on its own. If Novak knows, then David knows too. The realization hits harder than anything else. My chest tightens. The shame deepens, sharp and sudden. I picture his face, the way he had looked at me, and I can't stand the thought of what he must be thinking now. Novak's voice softens. I can see it on his face, genuine regret. He tells me he's sorry. I believe him. But then comes the rest. Professional, measured, final. Everything they've heard, he says, gives me a motive. The room tilts. He asks me gently if I would remove my scarf. The sound in my ears grows louder, a high ringing that drowns out everything else. My fingers don't move. I can't speak. The edges of the room blur, colors bleeding into one another. The last thing I register is the table in front of me, suddenly too far away. And then everything goes black.